Shadrach is the headmaster or the principal of Vukosi Primary in Shoshanguve, and I'm leading a smallish energy company called Synergy. The focus areas that we gave ourselves for the year is number one, to build a personal relationship. Second one is to collaborate on visible deliverables, and I'll go into more detail a little bit later. To have some meaningful interaction and to deliver some results. And it is really, we said right from the start, we want to take the first year to actually build a relationship. And even if that's the only thing we do in year one, that's great, because we don't see it as a year program and then we're going to split up. We're going to really use it as a foundation and move on. And I think that's so great for me to hear it from everywhere in this auditorium, that that's what's happening. The photo there shows one of the Saturday mornings that we met together with the school governing body and the school management team. And for me, it was amazing to see that a governing body and a management team was willing on a Saturday morning to meet and to spend time to focus on what's important for Shadrach and for the school. It's not the technology, it's this thing. So, a few points on building a personal relationship, and you will see two photos there at the bottom, and you wonder why these guys. Now, those two guys on the left-hand side is a guy called Tshwane from India, and the guy on the right is a guy called Hendrik van der Bijl from South Africa, and they were the two people, they known as the fathers of industrialization of those two countries, and in a way they're my heroes. But we'll go into some of the details of why they are there now. The purpose of building a personal relationship was we wanted to create mutual respect, where that respect leads to vulnerability, where we can open up and then create that vulnerable leadership and create the long-term trust and integrity. That even if it goes wrong, you can still engage with each other. I must say, Jock, the interaction that you facilitated, because we're all very busy and sometimes you just don't get to each other. And then Jock comes and he facilitates this interaction and it just takes the thing further. And I think it's something that that shouldn't stop, because sometimes you just need somebody to get you together and to say, man, let's just discuss for the next hour what's happening. And it just reinvigorates the relationship. So Jock, thank you for that, and it's really very helpful. The things that we built in this time is shared values, and that relates to the two photos that I'm showing you. The COP meetings was great. The personal interaction on a quarterly basis, and then discussions scheduled by and facilitated by Jock was also very good. Now, to give you some of those shared values, because we wanted to build some base from where what are the things that we agree on that will take us further. And the top quote is a quote from Hendrik van der Bijl. It's something that he said. And the bottom two is from Tshwane. And what's interesting as these guys, the company Synergy that I formed, actually started more than 100 years ago with these two people. And Synergy is a company that was formed out of Exaro, and Exaro is a company formed out of Kumba. Kumba was formed out of Iskor, and Iskor was a steel company that was started by Hendrik van der Bijl in the 1920s in South Africa, that led to the industrialization of the country. He also started Eskom, the IDC, and various other companies. I only have 5 minutes left. Tshwane, on the other hand, was the guy that started the Tata company, which is a massive conglomerate all over the world, building cars, making steel, making electricity, and various entities. And if you can look at what Van der Bijl said, it's not the government's function to do everything for its people, but that it is duty to create conditions that will encourage enterprise, and not the type of enterprise that will only enrich the few, but enterprise that result in equitable distribution for all. And that's one of the values that Shadrach and I said, we want to work on. Tata said that freedom without the strength to support it, and that's something that's currently an issue in South Africa, if need be to defend it, would be a cruel delusion. And the strength to defend freedom can itself only come from widespread industrialization, and this is so important, and that's where education comes in. The infusion of modern science and technology into the country's economic life. And that's the other thing as a partnership that Shadrach and I want to do, is to make sure that modern science and technology enters our children's lives in our schooling system. And then a last point that we agreed on, and that will create a program on how we incentivize and recognize performance, is this last quote, and I'm not going to read the whole quote, but the end is, but to lift up the best and the most gifted, so as to make them of the greatest service to the country. So we don't have to go and whitewash everybody and say everybody's fine, and if you're not that great, you're also right. If you're not that great, if you're lazy, you're lazy. That's it. Stop wanting stuff there. But if you're great, let's support you. Let's not waste the support on the guys that don't want to perform. So those are the shared values that we created between the two of us. And then we started collaborating on visible deliverables, and that top right picture is a Google image of Vukosi Primary. It's a very neat school, and as the others said, when I got to the school, it was really amazing for me to see it and to see how neat it is and how cared for it is. But there was challenges. The first thing that we said we wanted to do is to upgrade the sports facilities, and there at the top you can see the barren field, the lovely soccer field, lovely sports facilities, but all the irrigation was stolen, all the pipes were stolen, and it was barren. So in this process, I just assisted and supported Shadrach, but he and his school governing body and management team ran through a process. They got the money from the what's this gambling thing? Lotto. And sorry, I thought it too, but it wasn't that. It was a long time ago. And we went through a process where I then could assist them in choosing the right contractor to do the work. The second one is a library, computer library that they've got. It was built, it's there, but it can't be used because the foundations have sagged, and there's no occupational certificate for it. It's not usable, and we are in the process to assist with geotechnical work on that and to make sure that we can rectify the situation. In terms of a third visible deliverable is donation of copies of South African heritage. And just imagine to the school now, those two books, the one on the left hand, South African Heritage, is a book that we as a company reprinted. It's a book that was published in 1948, and it's the biography of Hendrik van der Bijl, the industrialist. And what's great about that story is, in a time where we live, where we need selfless leaders in the country that's working for the good of the people and not for their own pockets, this is an amazing story. The second book on the right is a book of the history of the Mufengu people in the Eastern Cape, of the biography of an individual, Mike Msizi, that I worked with in developing this wind farm, and the story of the wind farm. And what's great about that book is it's a book that tells the story of people currently making history. And we want the children to understand that it's their role is to make history, is to build a future for themselves. And these two books will then be available in their library. Meaningful interaction, as I said earlier, a Saturday morning meeting with Shadrach and his school governing board and the school management team was an amazing interaction. Lots of knowledge sharing happened, and it's a strange thing. Sometimes we think we don't have common things to discuss. But we decided, let's do it. I know something about the electricity industry, went there, had a slide presentation of about 80 slides. It took 2-3 hours, and that just created a basis for discussion about everything. So one of the things that happened, it was an amazing discussion, questions, creating understanding, and then suggestions coming from the school governing body, and I'll show one or two photos just now. One of the things we've decided is we'll look at a solar PV solution for the school to create electricity for the school. designed this whole thing and said that this is a solution, but use that as a learning experience for the children and the teachers in the process. One of the suggestions from the governing board was take that South African heritage book and translate it into a children's book, so that the teachers can read the book at this stage, but the children really can't. So let's translate it into something that makes sense, that tells the same story in a different way. Then we decided together that the top grade 6 and 7 learners will come and visit our office, and let's say that's 10 to 15 children, and then some of my engineers can show them how do you develop a wind farm, what's the process. Because that visibility, and I was like that when I was at school, I hated maths and science. In the end, the only reason I passed is because my dad really beat me hard until I passed. But now we can't do that anymore. But if you see something that it's in action, it's technology in action, suddenly it motivates you to learn something about it. So that's what we want to do then. And then we want to, at that session, focus them on going into maths and science and the engineering fields, because that's how we will build the future for this country. And then what we want to do is take the top 3 grade 7 learners at the end of the year, let's say after their mid-year exams, to visit one of our wind farms in the Eastern Cape as an outing. So we'll fly them down to PE, drive them to the wind farm, take them up in the turbine, show them how it works, meet the people that manage and operate these things, and have that as a recognition and a motivation for the people. We also just in that discussion talked about the Dinokeng scenario planning, and that was just to stimulate interest, and that led to great discussion. It's interesting, you can see there at the top myself talking with one of the school governing board people, and it's interesting if you now come from an Afrikaans background in Pretoria, you think a guy with a Rasta hat on, and you look at him and you think, oh, what now? But that guy asked such great questions and made such amazing inputs. And by the way, that's not Rasta colors. The school that I come from, office has got exactly the same colors. So it's not that. It's all about perception. And at the bottom you can see the Dinokeng scenarios, and that proverb is amazing. I have to stand closer to read it right. Is if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. And in our country at this stage, that's what we need to do. And on the right hand side you see those scenarios playing out, where in 2009, where we were as a country and where are we now. And what's happening here is exactly that. It's an active citizenry. It's a partnership between business and government and schools, and only in that partnership we can take the country forward. We can't work separate. We have to work together. Delivering the results, I think we've established the personal relationship. We need more time, we need more focus, and we need that to grow. The upgrading of the facilities is in process. We're busy rectifying the challenges of the computer lab. It's not started yet physically, but some of the geotechnical studies have started. The meaningful interaction has started, but needs to be continued. We still have to start with the translation of the book. We are arranging at the next meeting to donate those 2 books to the library, and we're planning the visit to our office and to the wind farms for later in the year. That's it.
Awesome.